Hello, and welcome to another episode of Comprehending Consciousness. My name is Allie with AMarieSpeaks.com, and I have created this series as a bridge, I guess, for those who are newly waking up, or maybe new to the spiritual world, or maybe just curious about all these kind of new age terms that are floating around and starting to trickle down into the mainstream. I wanted to create quick, informational, sort of educational videos, which are, 10 or 15 minutes. Some of them go a little over if the topic is deep, right? But yeah, I thought it is needed for people who are new, because these terms, they kind of get thrown around, right? And not just misused or misinterpreted, but maybe even cast aside or never even examined, because we kind of think they're, meaningless or frou-frou, frilly, superficial. There's no weight to them. We just think they're trendy, catchy things that are cool and new, right? My hope is to bring in more depth, more conscious awareness, right, in these terms, and to share my point of view of what the tip of the iceberg is, right, and hopefully cause some curiosity or intrigue in viewers that they might want to examine these topics for themselves in their own time, in their own way, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what waking up, that's what ascending, growing, spiritually, our evolutional path, it's all about finding our own way, honing and toning our consciousness and our intellect and our emotional and spiritual bodies, right? It's a learning process. And so I am hoping to impress that upon anybody who's new here. If you are new and you haven't watched any other episodes of this series, I would highly suggest checking them out. This episode today is number 18, so if you haven't seen prior, I highly suggest watching them. I did kind of write them in a sequential version so that hopefully conscious awareness would be growing and building off of every episode. But you don't have to watch them all, and you don't have to watch them in order either to get it. Some of them are a little more helpful, and I tend to say in those videos, if you haven't watched this previous one, like on 3D Matrix, you should probably watch that first before, we talk about alignments or polarities and stuff, right? Or Earth's ascension. This episode here, number 18, is going to be dedicated to the dark night of the soul. It's more of a phrase than just a single term, but it is definitely popular to be talked about and out there in the populace, right? You'll hear a lot of gurus, spiritual leaders, mentors. They call themselves influencers now, right? The spiritual influencers, the 5D pop art mentors out there are all kind of talking about the dark night of souls. Now, the term in itself it's kind of self-explanatory. You can tell it's kind of a hard time, right? Another way that we might refer to it is hitting a rock bottom, right? We're all kind of familiar with that idea. So the dark night of the soul is and can be very much like hitting a rock bottom. In the spiritual world, and when we start to do a lot of energetic alchemy or enlightenment or introspection, whatever kind of you want to look at that work as, when you start to pick through that stuff for yourself, then you will see that, like, the dark night of the soul tends to be part of this cycle. And just like the darkest part of the night, right, is before dawn is starting. There's that underlying notion with people who are on a spiritual path that there will be dawn after this period. You will come through it. The light will shine again. You know, it's not how kind of mainstream rock bottom can seem, where maybe it's the end and you just bottom out and you've ruined your life so much that, like, you can't come out of it, and you know, you have to scrape your way back up to get where you were before. That kind of perception is really not helpful to you as a soul, and it's really not helpful when we can empathize with others who are going through hard times, right? So my personal perspective on dark nights of the soul is sort of like that darkest hour of the night. And each one of us goes through tons of these kind of cycles, right? You can even just look at it as simple as like the circadian rhythms that, you know, your body's physiological aspects follow, and we sleep, your sleep cycle, right? That's what I'm trying to talk about, in case you're not familiar with that circadian rhythm kind of reference. But we have a waking and sleep cycle. Everybody goes through it. It's natural. Our planet does as well. Animals do. The plant life even does. We live in this kind of rhythmic fashion, and our energetic bodies work the same way. And I talked about this in the shadow work, light work videos, and in a lot of the sorry, the shadow work videos that I've been doing off to the side as well. That these are two sides of a coin, right? Or just like I was talking about, a flow. We move from one to the other, just like dark to night. The dark night of the soul is more of it's part of the flow, and it is a natural occurring thing, but everyone doesn't always hit them, and we don't always come through them all the time. And they vary, you know, around different topics and layerings. And if you haven't heard me talk about this, sorry, my light is falling over. If you haven't heard me talk about this cycle before, then I highly suggest checking out like the shadow work videos, where I talk more about that, understanding your flow and what that kind of means, and what the difference between shadow work and light work is. But basically, shadow work and light work mirror, you know, our natural flow of feeling energized versus needing to rest. Which, you know, as I just said, a very direct example of that is our wake-sleep cycles. However, we do have these like motivational, energetic cycles as well, which I'm sure you can probably identify in your own world. Times where your energetic body feels more motivated, more inspired. It has a lot of things to do, and it's energized. It feels good, you know. You feel light and bright and positive and energized. And there's other times when you feel burnt out or exhausted or lacking motivation, lacking desire, right? There's no things that spark your curiosity. Maybe you feel apathetic even, or depressed, you know. That is a cycling all of itself, right? And when we go through these things, somewhere inside of us, we know, okay, that this will come back. Oh, this is me in the slump. You know, we get familiar with these things. And when you can really work to understand that they're true energetic cycles, and there's nothing wrong with you or with the flow, and you just have to learn how to ride it better, and you know, work with it while it's there. And when it's not there, have resources prepared for yourself to keep yourself going, doing the work that needs to be done, even when you don't have, you know, all of that energy to do it. You don't feel super motivated. So the dark night of the souls can happen for a multitude of reasons. But basically what's happening is in this cycle, in some way, there's a catalyst, a disruption, a pivotal point of some kind that causes one to lose faith or hope or strong, firm foundation of understanding that we stand on. Now that can be, with things, actually material things in your real, direct, physical world, where your foundations are shook, and you lose your house, or you lose a job, or you lose a big relationship that was important to you. Somebody passes away, you get injured or hurt, or you have a chronic, a health crisis kind of thing, pop up. That sparks that kind of feeling of being lost in the night. It can also come from the building up, the final straw on the camel's back kind of thing, where you've overextended yourself and you've really exhausted your energy tank, right? And you're all the way down on EE, and now you're stuck because you can't even go anywhere, or you feel like you can't even go anywhere to get more gas. You're just stuck where you're at because you've depleted your resources so much, and you have forgotten or misplaced the understanding within you of abundance, of eternal life, of unconditional love. And that can happen, and it does happen for a multitude of reasons also. It can be, learning too many things too quickly, or pushing your intellectual boundaries too far, to where you take in a lot of new information, but it's not really clicking, and then you start to feel not smart enough, or like you don't get it, or stupid, or you feel overwhelmed, so you want to just give it all up. It can come by feeling like you're on a healing journey, or turning your life around, switching, trying to get out of a chronic illness or health catastrophe, right? And you feel like you're getting sicker, nothing's working. Or you really want something to happen, or you have a spiritual desire, a goal, a dream, an invention or an envisionment that is just not there. It's not coming to fruition. You're not getting it, and in the way that you see fit, in the time that you're desiring, right? And it can make you feel like it's never going to happen. You should give up. Important thing to remember here, I don't want to talk too long, and I'm already over 10 minutes. Dark nights of the souls tend to come in when we're doing shadow work, or we're on the negative side of the spectrum. And even if we're not really realizing that we are, right? Because sometimes the type of work that we do, or shadow work, or maybe if you're not even aware of that kind of work, and you're just negatively pulling in a lot of negative polarities, whether you're into conspiracies, or you're wrapped up in drama in your own life, or you're looking at the external world and the government, or you're looking at the health world. All of these things right now can be really triggering and in a very negative way, right? And when we take in a lot of negative information, stimulus, whether you think you're doing it to find the truth and to find justice and to find the correct way and make better choices, or to find your right way, you think you have this overall positive goal at the very end of the reasoning behind why you're doing all of that, taking in of this kind of information. Or you think want to know something good for somebody else out there, right? Somebody you're worried about. And so you're trying to fix them, or trying to push all this information on them to get them to change, and it's not coming out, it's not working, they're not listening to you. All of these different things, right? They are forms of shadow work. They are depleting our light and our energy, because we are using our light and energy to do work. And also, like I was just saying, we're taking in all these other, maybe you're taking in information that has negative charges, and it does collect in your polarity around you, and it is on this negative side of the spectrum. So especially when we're not consciously aware that this is happening, we're leaving ourselves weakened, or we're making ourselves vulnerable to a rock bottom, to a dark night of the soul, to where we've dug ourselves in to a rabbit hole and forgotten that we actually need the light to be able to get down there to even get clarity and truth. And now we're so far into this thing, no light's ever shining down really, and we're trying to use our distorted flashlight, which is running out of batteries because we've been digging all the way through, processing information, storing it for later. Like all of those things take up your precious energy source, right? And now you're trying to use your flashlight still down there, but you're so far away from true light, and you know, it's not super beneficial, but it's also easy to forget what we're doing and to not keep mindful of that and to get lost in that. And then you leaving yourself susceptible to forgetting about the light, or to losing your light, losing your remembrance, forgetting your source connection. And especially if you haven't done strong light work, you don't understand that you do have an unconditional love inside you. Like, I like to see a well of energy, infinite energy, a virtual real center, that's ever flowing. If you don't have conscious reminders of that, if you can't pull into that in you while you're doing the work, you run risks of really getting lost in there, getting lost in the shadow, hitting rock bottoms, going through dark nights of the soul. And those can really make you question everything, question your faith, question your whole life, all these things you think you've built. Because especially if you're not really realizing that your flashlight's getting low and you think your light is still honest, you can start listening to your shadows in those rabbit holes more than you're actually really touching into your own true light. And they can trick you and trap you. And then you have an energetic negative polarity going on. So entities and information and all these thought energies, they see more of your beacon. You're down in their space, in their fertile ground, and now your alignment is shifting, and you're calling in more negative polarity. So of course they're going to come in more, and they might even sound just like you. And you might have yourself telling yourself, "Oh, you're no good. Oh, you're a failure. Look what you got yourself into. You'll never get out now. Light is fake. Look at it, hasn't done anything for you. You're lost down here. You're not eternal. You're worthless. You're not infinite. You're not limitless. Look at you. You're limited right now. You're stuck. You're here forever." These things can all come in and really suffocate you and force you into these dark nights of the soul experiences. I do like this, I love the vision of a rock bottom and the sort of preconception that we see, most people see from the mainstream, right? About maybe mistakes, disappointments, things like not hitting your goals and not getting anywhere, not following your purpose. Each time maybe you're like digging, yourself a little ditch, digging a hole, digging down, and like your rock bottom is like when everything's so deep, you're like in this deep pit, right? Everything's gone wrong. Maybe you lost your house, maybe you're homeless, maybe you lost your job, maybe you lost the love of your life, or maybe you've got a bad addiction, or you've got a real chronic issue. Maybe you've been eating terrible your whole life, and now you're facing, near death's doorstep because, you've poisoned your body close to death so far. Or you just never followed any of your dreams and you just listen to everybody else around you, and you feel like every time you do that, you're digging yourself farther away from yourself, deeper into this hole, right? The rock bottom, when you're down in there, and you're at the bottom and you look up and it's like you can see out the stars, and you feel like you're so far away from your goal, the mountain that you need to climb to get up to this beautiful desired outcomes or your potential, your best life scenario, whatever it is. It seems like you're in a well, right in the bottom, looking up and out. And it's like, oh, where's the ladder? Is somebody going to come and pull me out? Send the bucket down so I can ride it out or whatever, right? Or you're in a pit, the rock bottom pit, right? Trying to get somebody to bring you out. But the thing is, it's a well, like I just said, right? It's not empty. It's just that the bottom ground has hardened over, right? Earth has fell in there. You have covered up through, denying your one infinite truth here, that we are all connected to source, that we all have this well we can dive right into inside of us. That's to the before. It's to the ether, to imagination space, to God, source, whatever you want to envision that line of connection that draws us all to before. There's like, your pit, your ground is there. You forget that you've put a bunch of earth or stomped down ground onto here. But when nobody comes to ever rescue you, and your dark night of the soul is like seeming to be never ending, pushing you to your absolute boundaries, to the point where you're like questioning what you are, who you are, you will realize that no one is and can come for you. It's not even about that. And maybe they want to, but they can never reach you down there. Their ropes will never be long enough to reach you, because you have to remember that it's a well, right? And you can dig down that crust of that final lie you told yourself, right? Bust through it and remember we're all connected. Remember there is infinite love inside of you. Remember that you are your savior, that you are full of unconditional love and energy of the universe and of source. And when you do that, you bust through that little crust of that final distortion or lie that you set yourself, and you realize that you are worthy of that there is love under there, that you are good enough, that you are enough, that you do deserve to rise up out of this hole, right? And with that, you're like, water can come, your energy source, right? Your torrential flow can finally bubble up in this well, in this pit that you've been in, and rise you up out of it and take you out. And that is the end portion of the dark night of the soul. Because in the dark night of the soul, the whole final moral of the story is you are your own savior. Only you have that gift inside of you to give to yourself. You must save yourself. It's just like Harry Potter, when he thinks it's his dad coming to save him and Sirius from all the Dementors, and he envisions this his dad over there, but then you find out later on that it was him all along. Nobody's coming, and if you don't do it for yourself, nobody's coming. Right? But and that's just one great reference, because so many stories harken back to that, and so many things, there's so many reference points to that notion that in the end it is yourself that sets yourself free, and it is that acceptance of that truth that you're worthy, you are source, you are creator, you are love, and unconditional love at that will never end, and that is eternally flowing. And you'll rise out of your dark night. The sun will start to rise. You'll come out of your rock bottom, right? So, and like I said at the beginning, and I want to just reiterate here, this is a cycle thing, and the dark night of the soul can happen across tons of categories, and through evolution and through your ascensions, just like I talk about liar loops, being able to get off at the exit and then come around to your next lesson, which is very similar to your previous lesson, except you've gained more clarity. You're a bit higher up and you see things more clearly. You can make better choices this next time around when you're presented with slight scenarios that are almost the same, new tests that just push the boundary a little bit more. Every grade level in this school, maybe, if you could look at it, it's every cycle of a loop that you're making to new ascension has a test at the end, has a dark night of the soul of some sort, where, okay, you think you know it all, you think you have all these answers and this little house of cards, like nice and stacked, we're shaking the table now, and let's see what kind of house of cards you have left after, and it's not in a mean way. We have to remember this is a free will, beautiful, loving, energetic universe full of intelligent, infinite intelligence, getting excited, right? The ether is running with infinite intelligence through all of us for purpose and reason, right? So it doesn't shake the table to be like, F you, we don't like your house, we hope it falls apart. It's stupid, don't waste your time next time. No. We shake your table because we're saying to you, look, you think you've built such a sturdy thing. You've had this thing, you have it preserved and underneath like a glass and nobody can even breathe on it. Don't look at it too much, it might fall over. You're scared. It's fearful. It's not sturdy. Where's the love in that? Shake the table and see what's left over and build it up after, because it will be stronger because of that, because it will mean more, because of that. You will gain more knowledge because of that. You will be able to build it with more strength the next time. Or with less fear of it falling down even. That could be the kind of lesson. To let go of the fears of it falling down every time. To just enjoy the build-up and let it fall. Who knows? What are we to put preemptive parameters on what could possibly be the purposes or the reasons? We keep things open and fluid and allow for cyclic flow to present itself, and we ride on it. Well, there's the ease. There comes clearer understanding and a more enjoyable life, right? And that's, I guess, what the whole point is. So if you've listened to me, this one went a little over. Thank you so much for joining me on episode 18, where I was talking about the dark night of the soul, or hitting your rock bottoms. If you are feeling like you're there, don't be ashamed, don't be scared. Know that dawn will always come. There will always be new cycles. Reach out and take in things that feel good. Don't be afraid to pull in or call in comfort or support if you're feeling weakened or you're feeling unsure, unstable or doubtful. Harken back to your faith. Remember that you've only built a crust here, that your rock bottom appears so solid. Let it evolve and see what you can learn. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I will see you next time. In the meantime, you can always find me over on Telegram, where I share daily positivity tips, infographics, and fun things just that I'm doing with my day, sometimes links to other places and blogs that I've written. Or you can find me directly on my website, amariespeaks.com, or here on YouTube or BitChute. So I'll catch you next time.